Now that we've finished building clean shapes, we'll move on to the gradient tool. Gradients help us add depth, contrast, and visual interest using smooth color transitions. To understand how the gradient tool works, I'll start with a very simple shape. To demonstrate the gradient tool, I'll start by drawing a simple rectangle using the rectangle tool. With the rectangle selected, I'll open the gradient panel and apply a gradient. Here, we can choose the type of gradient, such as linear or radial. A linear gradient transitions from one side to another, while a radial gradient starts from the center and spreads outward. This line you see on the shape is the gradient annotator, which shows where the gradient starts and ends. The left circle represents the starting color, and the right circle represents the ending color. To change a color, I click on a gradient stop and choose a new color. To add more colors, I click below the gradient slider to create a new stop. I can drag the stops to control how much space each color takes. To remove a color, I drag the stop downward away from the slider. Using the gradient tool, I can click and drag directly on the shape to control the direction, angle, and length of the gradient. This gives us precise control over how colors flow inside the shape. Choosing the right color combination is just as important as applying the gradient. One helpful resource is UI Gradients, where we can find ready-made gradient color combinations. These gradients are designed to work well together and can be easily applied to our designs. We can use these color combinations as inspiration or directly apply them to our shapes. Now that we understand how the gradient tool works and where to find color inspiration, we'll apply gradients to our actual artwork. Now that we understand how gradients work, let's apply them to the artwork we created earlier using the Shape Builder tool. Instead of creating gradients from scratch every time, we can reuse them using the Eyedropper tool. First, I'll draw a rectangle and create my own gradient on it. I'll choose the gradient type, either linear or radial, and adjust the colors and direction until I'm happy with the result. Once the gradient is ready, I'll select the artwork, then choose the Eyedropper tool. I'll click on the rectangle, and Illustrator instantly copies the gradient and applies it to the selected shape. I'll repeat this process for each artwork, creating different gradients for each design. For some shapes, I'll use a linear gradient, and for others, a radial gradient, depending on the form and movement of the design. This helps the artwork feel more dynamic and visually balanced. Using the Eyedropper tool makes it fast and consistent to apply gradients across multiple designs. Now it's your turn to apply what you've learned. Use the Shape Builder tool to create your own design using basic shapes. Then apply gradients to your artwork. Try both linear and radial gradients. You can create your own gradients or use the Eyedropper tool to reuse them. Focus on clean shapes, smooth color transitions, and visual balance. Take your time, experiment, and don't be afraid to try different combinations. Thank you, and see you again to our next post-lesson tutorial.